Have you ever wanted to learn the secrets to really building wealth and setting your family up for generational wealth? In today's video, we're going to be looking at 8 steps you need to build wealth. The first step to building wealth in the financial building block is making a plan. Now, this, of course, is going to be a very specific goal that you want to achieve, putting some really measurables in there, meaning that you're going to have a time frame to achieve it. You're going to write down exactly what you're looking to achieve, how much you're looking to save, and what you're looking to do. Now, of course, when it comes to these financial plans, they can vary greatly from individuals. Now, it could include retiring early, purchasing an investment property or a second home, building an investment portfolio. There are a ton of financial plans out there, and really, this is, again, the basics. If you say, I want to retire by the age of 55, what exactly is that plan going to look like? What kind of roadmap can you build out to ensure that you are retiring at 55 years of age, which again is a goal. Now, regardless of the goal, again, being very specific about it, making sure you know, because going from point A to point B for a majority of individuals can be incredibly difficult, but with a plan, even if the plan does adjust and change, it is going to make a big difference to building your financial wealth. The second step we look at to building wealth is creating and sticking to a budget. Now, I know for a majority of people, they don't like the idea of a budget, but this can be a spending plan. This can be a general rule, maybe not being as strict as literally saving and counting for every single dollar, but you have to know the ultimate goal of any budget is to avoid overspending and definitely living outside of your means and spending more than you earn. This, again, is the second kind of fundamental step when you get to building wealth. Creating a detailed budget really outlines the majority of your expenses. And also, when it comes to expenses, is you're going to have a lot of them that are just kind of basic. When you look at your house, when you look at your auto, when you look at loans that you have, anything that is a fixed expense is super easy because, of course, from month to month, it is not going to change. But then when you look at discretionary items, let's say eating out, entertainment, travel, this is the budget where most people have a tendency to overspend, which means they are not following that plan that we set in step 1. Moving into the budget, financial goals are not likely to be reached because, again, of the step essentially that they're missing with the budgeting piece. Now, of course, 2 popular budgeting methods that we've talked about on this channel is the 50-30-20 rule, which of course is 50% of your income going to essentially the fixed expenses, 30% which is going to kind of that discretionary, leaving 20% for debt repayment, for investing, for really that discretionary that you need to do, and really setting that up for financial success with that last 20%. Now, some people also do a 70-20-10 rule, depending, again, 70% going for really those fixed incomes, 20 discretionary. So again, building a lot more into the fixed, and 10% going straight into the investment category. Now, of course, both allocations really make the most of your income. Knowing what money is coming in, what exactly you're paying, what money you have left over at the end of the month is going to be imperative. When we get to number 3 of the 8 steps of building wealth, it is managing debt. Now, if you're familiar with Dave Ramsey, debt is absolutely detrimental to anybody's budget, whether if you're making $50,000 a year or you're making $1 million a year. If you're carrying a majority of debt, especially when it comes to bad debt. Now, the difference between this is bad debt usually is credit card debt because of the higher interest rates. Now, right now, we're looking at 20, 22, 24% interest on credit cards, which means you are paying an exorbitant amount that you will never make back by investing because of what you have in credit card debt. Now, on the flip side of this, there's also good debt. Good debt could be something that is tied to an asset, such as a home. Now, really, credit cards, personal loans, again, are kind of on the bad debt. And I also do put an automobile kind of in that bad debt category personally. Now, the reason for this is when you have an auto loan, it is one of the biggest depreciating assets that we have, meaning that if you buy a $50,000 car, you drive it off the lot, chances are it's worth about $38,000 to $40,000 depending on the vehicle, which again can really go into the bad debt category. And of course, with this debt, most people are taking it to a very, very extreme, which means the norm used to be 60 months when it came to an auto loan. Then it went to 72, 75, 84. Now we have seen a lot of institutions doing 96-month auto loans, which is incredibly crazy because of the cost of vehicles have went up so much that they have to essentially finance them for that long. And of course, looking at the depreciating asset, you're never going to make up exactly what you have in there or what you're paying for this vehicle. Chances are it is not even going to last 96 months for a vehicle because we know the typical turnaround time is around 27 months for a vehicle, which means if you're going in there and you're spending 90 months on a vehicle, it is incredible. Now, of course, with this, there are two very popular methods. Number one being the debt snowball. Now, this one, of course, psychologically is going to make the most sense. So you list all of your debts. You are going from the absolute lowest one. So if you owe $500 on a credit card to your absolutely highest one, which could be $20,000 on a credit card, you're going to put every single penny into that essentially lowest balance to knock that out and get rid of it, and then start just snowballing those payments into the other debt that you do have. Now, of course, the debt avalanche is the method that I prefer. However, mathematically, it makes more sense. Psychologically, you might not see the impact as fast, because essentially in the debt avalanche method, we are taking the absolute highest interest rate, putting that on top. Every extra dollar you have is going right to that highest interest rate to get the most really bang for your buck when it comes to putting money in there. And of course, getting rid of the debt, guys. We cannot stress that enough. Debt is super, super expensive. Looking at the fourth step to building wealth, this is the emergency fund. This is essential for financial security and not falling right back into that debt cycle. There's going to be a point in life when unexpected expenses happen, period. That's it. There's going to be a point in your life when they are going to happen. Having that emergency fund mean that you can pay for those expenses without relying on loans, car loans, credit cards, retirement savings, really anything which is going to be detrimental for your wealth. Now, a lot of people that I deal with go into retirement savings. So they're pulling money out of IRA accounts to essentially supplement the income that they're overspending with. I have seen this for first-time home buyers. I've seen them pull money out of retirement accounts to buy vehicles. I've seen them pull money out of retirement to essentially pay down debt. This, of course, is going to be detrimental, because then when you get into those retirement years, you're not seeing as much of that compounding interest that we always talk about, meaning that you are going to essentially sacrifice part of your retirement for the needs that you have today instead of going through and budgeting properly. As we get into step number 5, it is maxing out the retirement savings. This is another one where when you look at the emergency fund, when you look at high interest debt, you have to max out those retirement accounts, whether it is maxing out a 401k, putting money in your HSA, or putting money into those IRA accounts, which of course, the Roth variation is the one that I always recommend. When you look at the Roth accounts, you can get absolutely more money and more bang for your buck, because essentially once you get to retirement, depending on the size of the account, chances are you could be paying more money during retirement than you actually were with the working years, even though you got a benefit right now. Do the Roth variation. I really, really cannot stress, especially if your company has any sort of matching plan. You have to be getting that, because essentially, if they're putting 4% in, you're putting 4% in, you're seeing a 100% return. That is right, dollar for dollar match when it comes to the retirement savings. But at this point, when you start building wealth, you are looking to max these out. Maxing again, the HSAs, maxing out the Roth 401ks, maxing out the Roth IRAs, and making sure again that if all of these are taken care of, then you're going to be moving into regular brokerage accounts. Now, looking at step number 6 to building wealth, it is automating finances. Now, for a majority of people, you want to automate the finances without doing any work. This means automatically pulling it. And for a lot of people, pulling it out before it hits your bank account is imperative. So if you're setting up direct deposit to another account to build up the emergency fund, if you have a direct deposit, essentially that's going into contributions into the 401k, you can have automatic transfers, which means when you look at the bottom line of what is being deposited into, let's say, your checking account or your savings account, that is what you have to live. That is where you're really going to start your base budgeting on. So if I make, let's say, $5,000 a month, automatically I'm putting $500 of that away. The $4,500 I have remaining is exactly what I'm going to be able to use when it comes to the budgeting, meaning my income minus my expenses. There has to be something left without living outside of your means. Now, of course, with the automation, it ensures that the money is going to go into savings, is going to go into those retirement accounts without anything that you need to do. It is very important, even when you look at your bills, credit cards, student loans, mortgage, rent, debt, everything. You do not want to miss a payment, and I cannot stress that enough. It can be very, very detrimental to your credit score if you're late on any payments at all, which is the reason why automation not only simplifies your finances, but it really does simplify your life, making sure at least if the money is there, Everything is being paid on time. And of course, through dollar cost averaging, this is going to build a steady increase to wealth over time, which is exactly what you want. When we get into number 7, we look at the increased earnings. That's right. A lot of people will focus on cutting costs. A lot of people will focus on saving money, but a lot of people don't look on the other side of it of earning more income or having a higher paying job. Now, of course, when you get a raise, more should be going to the debt repayment, more should be going into the investing. If you can work a side hustle, that's another way absolutely that you can start investing, just like we're doing here on YouTube. And if you like the content that I'm putting out, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. But if your salary increases, this is the time when you need to be putting extra money away. So essentially, let's say you get a 4% raise, you could put away 2% of that income and not even feel it and not even see it. But of course, like we were talking about with the side hustles, there has to be an additional way for you to make income, because what can happen is a lot of times if your primary form of income does go away, you might have to supplement some of your income with the emergency fund, which means having multiple income streams. Now, of course, this could be a side gig. It could be rental income. It could be online ventures. It could be passive income from stocks. It could be even savings accounts that are yielding you some essentially interest within there to really keep everything aside while you're building this. And the final 8th step to building wealth is staying diversified. This is very, very important. This is the reason why personally I do not invest in individual stocks. I will pick ETFs, and ETFs are exactly where I stay, but it is going to continue to accumulate wealth and continue to grow efficiently, staying diversified. Again, a diversified portfolio could mean different investments when you're starting to look at, ETFs, when you're looking at REITs, when you're looking at bonds, when you're looking at a bunch of different forms, including cryptocurrency. It can make a really big difference by diversifying your investment. Still keeping some of that liquid with that emergency fund, making sure you're eliminating debt. And of course, guys, when we get to the point of building wealth, the debt elimination is one that I feel a lot of people really overlook, because if you're not paying those monthly payments in debt, if it's not being eaten up by interest, chances are you're going to have a big chunk of your income to actually invest on a regular basis. When you start looking at 10, 20, 30 years, it is going to be just absolutely game changing with how much money you can put in there. All right, guys, that is going to do it for the 8 steps you need to build wealth. Let me know in the comments what you guys think. And as always, thank you guys for watching.